Are you ready to dream, dare, decide, and do for 2024? Dream, Dare, Decide, Do has been my winding down 1 year and launching into the next process for many years. And I'll tell you a little story about how it came to be as we go along, but let's jump right in. There are 4 steps in this practice, just as the name implies, but first we'll lay the foundation. It's a look back over the year we've just lived, 2023. Where are your highs and your lows? And what do you want more of next year? And what do you want less of? What worked well, personally or professionally, health, finance, whatever? What worked well that you would like to build on? And what didn't work so well that you would like to replace or improve? So we'll lay the foundation first. Step 1 is dream. We'll dig into your dreams and desires, but not just the old standard wish list. What do you really want, and why do you want it? Very often, the reason isn't what we think because we don't yet understand what this desire really represents to us. And I'll share a personal story about that. Step 2 dares you to see your desires from the opposite perspective. What does this relationship or goal want and need from you? This is a perspective we rarely consider, but it's essential. It's often the missing link in bringing our desires into our reality. Step 3 challenges you to compare the discoveries from step 1, dream, and step 2, dare. Where are you a match? Where are you not a match? And then decide whether you want to grow yourself to match these desires or change your desires to match where you are or maybe even where you want to be. Both are valid choices. Both. There's no wrong answer here. And a lot of the stress and tension we feel about turning our dreams into reality actually happens when we're teetering between these two. It's almost as if we think, or we probably do think, that, oh yes, I'm going to grow myself because this is what I want. Oh no, I don't want to change to match who I am and where I am. No. And that creates a tension that's really pulling us away from our dreams instead of pulling us together. Now, step 4 actually dares you to decide what to do. What are you willing to do to turn your dream into your reality? I mean, nothing happens without aligned, consistent action, which, by the way, is just the opposite of busyness. I mean, busyness, you might be doing stuff all the time, but it's not productive. It's not productive. It's not bringing you and your dreams closer together. It could be a desire of the heart, but if you're just being busy, and not taking the steps that are needed, that dream or desire needs from you to pull the two of you together, well, then that's just daydreaming, wishing and hoping. Now, one of my long-term dreams has recently presented itself as an opportunity. And you know what? I'm probably going to miss out on it because I have spent more time daydreaming and wishing and hoping than in actually preparing myself to receive it. And boy, howdy, that was not a happy realization, but it's definitely a wake-up call. And this is something that is very much a desire of my heart. So you know what? I need to decide what I'm willing to do and then do it. Do it. Bringing our desires into reality is a collaborative, co-creative process. We have an active part to play. What are you willing to heal or grow or change? Do. What are you willing to commit to doing for as long as it takes? So before we begin dreaming and daring for 2024, let's start by laying this foundation of where we are right now. We're going to mine 2023 for its gold. It's there, trust me, because no matter what has gone on in your personal world or the world at large, there were bright spots, there were priceless moments of self-awareness, learning, gratitude. I mean, for starters, just the fact that you're here means that you're alive and would love to have a good 2024. I mean, I think we sometimes forget to celebrate the simple fact that we're alive. We get so caught up in the day to day, the ups and downs, and we do a lot of complaining about whatever's not working for us. Sometimes complaining is joking or venting or whatever, but we just forget. That makes us forget, okay? And we're not celebrating things like, well, I'm alive. That's pretty good. Or this happened. That's great. A really dear friend of mine created a morning ritual for herself when she was gravely ill. This was many years ago. But I told her, the minute she told me about it, I said, I'm stealing this. Because as soon as she woke up, she would stand up, and she'd go, vertical, it's a good day. And I mean, y'all, she was ill. It didn't matter if she went straight back to bed. She would return in her imagination to that moment anytime it felt like pain or fatigue or just life were beating her. And this became her emotional touchstone. Vertical. That's a pretty simple morning ritual. And maybe that's our first collective nugget of goal for 23. Let's just begin with a moment to acknowledge and appreciate that we're alive. And sure, some of us have things going on that we don't really like, and they kind of drag us down, or we've had really sad or tragic or traumatic things happen. But we're alive. We're alive. Let's begin with this collective point of gratitude. And then now, I'll tell you what, let's just pause here for a sec. But just say to yourself, I'm alive. And that means anything is possible. I'm alive. And that means anything is possible. Okay? Finding the obvious bright spots, that's easy. So I'm going to challenge you to dig deeper, thinking that all the bright spots, well, just thinking that the bright spots, they sound just positive. I mean, that sounds great. But if all bright spots are positive or have to be positive, you know what happens? Superficial living. Positive thinking can be wonderful, but it can also be shallow. It can keep us skimming over the surface, doing our best to avoid anything bad, any bad feelings, anything bad. That can be every bit as damaging as chronic negative thinking. I bet you haven't considered that. Or maybe we've let ourselves just be hoodwinked into thinking if we just focus on the positive all the time, we'll be fine. Well, that sounds good. And on the surface, it's probably good on the surface. But what do we do when all that compulsory positive thinking makes us feel like we're failing at the positive game? It's not humanly possible. It's not humanly possible to be positive all the time. Does that mean you're failing at the positivity game? Well, that is actually a conversation for another day. But the opposite, but equally superficial look back is when we only want to see what's wrong. What went wrong? And letting that drive a belief that life is just against us. I have a target on my back. I mean, sure, there'll be ups and downs, but does that mean literally that we have a target on our back? Does it? Was there nothing good that happened in this whole year? I'm willing to bet that there was a lot. A lot. Focusing on what went wrong or believing that life is always out to get us, we actually we squeeze out any space or grace for life to be enjoyed. And if that's you, don't be surprised when very little seems enjoyable. You don't have any space for it. Mm-mm, mm-mm. Enjoyment looks at you and say, well, it's crowded in there. I guess I'll go find somewhere else. Yeah. When you think about your good moments, your bright spots, go a step further and think about why those those memories feel good. I mean, what specifically caused that feeling? What was happening? Who were you with? What was going on? And it also helps to understand how the stories we remember are formed, because we don't remember every moment of every day. So why these moments and these days? So here's a quickie rundown, okay? As humans, we experience everything through our senses 24/7, but not just those five we learned in elementary school. All of our senses, all of them are physical and emotional and intellectual and spiritual, all of it. And so we experience everything through all of our senses, but the foundation of that sensory input is, drum roll, emotional. Emotional. But we shoot this whole bundle of sensory input up to our brains. But along the way, somewhere between wherever it came in and getting to our brains, somewhere along the way, these emotions start morphing into feelings about what this experience means and what it says about us. And then our brain translates all of that into words, which become our stories. And then those stories become our memories. Some are conscious, some are subconscious. But more importantly, those story memories, the good and the bad, they embed themselves in us like programming in a computer, and then they run silently in the background, kind of dictating things until we bring them into our awareness to address, assess, heal, whatever it is they need. And it isn't enough to look only at our good moments and our good times. That does leave us living a superficial life, a half life. And then we're left feeling depleted or dissatisfied or both. There's no balance. There's no balance. Oh, only good, no bad. Where's the balance? Life thrives in balance. Now, it's not always going to be rigidly balanced. Even an airplane, or a boat, you're keeping the balance, but there are ups and downs, and you bring it back to balance. So remember, our feelings, our emotions, they're messengers, and they take their job very seriously. They are meant to flow through us. They're meant to deliver their information, their wisdom, and their guidance, and then move on through. If we are receptive to their insight, they deliver it, leave, and let us take it from there. When that happens, we feel balanced and at peace, even if the experiences themselves are not particularly pleasant. We are not that easily victimized. But when we block or repress some of our feelings, we create this short circuit in our own system. And these emotions, they fritz inside us and they're demanding attention because they know their message is vital to our well-being. And our resistance traps them in our bodies. And we experience this stress and anxiety and out of whack hormones. Oh gosh. It's like they're just hammering on the walls to get out, because they know it's not their purpose to stay, to take up residence, but to deliver their messages and move on. If we are serious about taking charge of our healing and growing and becoming our truest, most whole selves, welcoming home all the parts of ourselves, we have to look at our tough moments too. They are so rich in wisdom and self-knowledge, and they can teach us so much. So I'm going to challenge you to look hard at some of your tough moments. I mean, it is so tempting to wallow in self-pity or point your finger at whoever or whatever you think causes less than stellar moment. It could be a situation, circumstance, person, doesn't matter. Finger pointing is blame, which is very different from holding people accountable. Blame is a prison you create for yourself, and then you hire yourself as the jailer. Do you hear that? Blame is a prison you create for yourself, and then you hire yourself as the jailer. Okay, did that little tough moment make you more aware of something that kind of been flying under the radar in your conscious awareness? Did it, like force you to make changes? This moment that was less than pleasant in your life, did it kind of force you to make changes? Especially the kind where you wanted the result, but you didn't really want to make the changes. We've all had them. Come on. You know, kind of we've all had those moments of kind of hoping we could avoid doing the hard work and still get the result. I mean, really, we've all done it. I mean, did a tough moment call you to change a habit or a belief or behavior? Did it boot you out of your nice, cozy comfort zone? Did you find yourself having a much needed tough conversation with someone or with yourself? Did you need to break up with someone or something? A friend, a family member, spouse, a lover, a job, a habit? A dear friend of mine got fired, and she was righteously, naturally resentful, even though she didn't like that job. It was stressful, not really what she wanted to do. It wasn't a great match for her skills and talents. It was an okay match. But here's the thing, she probably wouldn't have quit. But because she got fired, she was forced to go out and find a new job. And you know what? It's a better job, and she loves it. And it is a perfect match for her skills and talents and lets her use them in ways that are satisfying to her and helpful to the people they're meant to serve. Now, she feels like she's being useful. She feels like she 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 feels good about herself, and she feels good about the job she's doing, and she feels like she's being true, her true self, true to herself. So what started out as a bad, terrible, horrible moment turned into one of her best. She didn't realize that though until we had a conversation. Because sometimes we need somebody to reflect back to us to help us see, because we're caught up in seeing something else. In any given year, you're going to have some bad moments. Are you willing to look at them differently? I mean, maybe they were here to kick you in the pants and, boot you out of your rut or your complacency or out of your comfort zone. So here's the truth for you. Everything you want and don't currently have already exists for you, but it's outside that comfort zone. Just like my friend's wonderful new job. So back to our question, where are your personal nuggets of gold in 2023? The good, the bad, the pleasant, the tough, the ugly, the beautiful, all of them, all of them, all of them. To find them all, you may need to pull yourself out of some places like self-deprecation. You need to give yourself credit where credit is due. Maybe you need to drag yourself out of a pity party or general pookiness. And certainly out of blame. Check all those at the door and then step through that door. Take your look back with one goal in mind. One goal, finding the gold wherever it's hiding. And when you do find those nuggets of gold, and you will, pause to become consciously aware of the feelings surrounding each of your memories, your stories, and then begin intentionally asking what wisdom and guidance is lurking in each one. Because remember, we're designed to receive that wisdom and guidance. So why not just ask if it isn't immediately apparent? Just ask. All you got to do is ask. We have to become receptive to that guidance. And sometimes that takes some willingness on our part because, our gut reaction is often just like, well, yep, but, and we've got some situation, some relationship, some circumstance, we all do, that we're absolutely certain is different, unique. Mine's exempt because it's not. Every moment contains its own nugget of gold. Now, it may be hiding, it might be down in the mud and the muck, but it's there, waiting to become found if you're willing to look. The best way to become your own mentor is to surrender to the truth that our personal situations and relationships are not good or bad, they're not special or exempt, and then go actively mining for those nuggets of gold. So right now, I'm going to ask you to pause the video just a sec and create a timeline. It can be a list, it can be an actual line, whatever, for 2023. I want you to note all the key moments, good or bad. The only thing they have in common is that they are key moments that you remember. They're all important in some way. And then for each of those entries, I want you to jot down the main emotion you feel about it. Okay? And do this pretty quickly. Do it stream of consciousness. Don't think about it too much. Just do your best to capture how you felt in the moment. What's the first feeling that comes to mind, the first emotion that comes to mind when you remember that? Your immediate thoughts right now or at the time it happened. Just go with that. So spend a moment remembering everything that was going on in each of those moments. What were you feeling before and after? Who was there or wasn't there? Have your feelings changed since then? What did you do or not do because of this moment that sticks out in your memories? What were the results of this action? How did you benefit, especially if it was in some unexpected way, or maybe it didn't work out. And so the benefit was like, that didn't work. I won't do that. I won't do it that way again. Benefits come in all shapes and sizes. So just keep playing with it until you at least become open to the possibility that you can derive benefit in some way. That is literally part of the bridge that you're building from where you are right now to where you say you want to be. We'll be looking at that in just a moment. So take a look at your completed timeline and start thinking about, what do I want more of? I'm looking at all of this from what do I want more of in 2024? What do I want less of? What do you want less of? What do you want more of? Maybe, oh, I love highlighter pens. I love color coding things. So maybe take a couple of highlighter pens and mark the ones you want more of in one color and the ones you want less of in another. Whatever works for you. The next steps are going to help you get crystal clear about that. So before we move on, be sure you just celebrate your personal nuggets of gold, whether or not they feel good in the moment. So, all right now, you go ahead and pause the video for as long as you want. I'll be right here. I'm not going to stop mine. So come back whenever you're ready. Okay? See you in a minute. Okay. Now we are ready for step one, dream. But first, a little backstory. This process, this annual process, Dream, Dare, Decide, Do, it began about 1997 when I was trying to make sense of one of those horrible, painful, very bad year. And it would have been the easiest thing in the world to just give up. So when I think in terms of dreaming forward to 1998, I only wanted one thing. I just wanted to feel better. That was it. That was it. So thankfully I didn't give up. I can be stubborn. And like all character traits, stubbornness has a bright side and a dark side. So this time, being stubborn meant persistent, tenacious, persevering, and it paid off. And I was determined to not let that crummy year define me. What emerged, what is this process that I've been doing ever since, has been life-changing. And every time I teach it, women come back and say, oh my gosh, that was life-changing. Yeah, I believe it. I believe it. Let me tell you, the benefits of 1997 were not immediately obvious. No, in fact, some took years to make any sense of whatsoever. And by that, I actually mean I was finally opening up to receiving their message. I was. I was becoming able to recognize that benefits didn't always fit my tight little definition of what a benefit is. Boy, that was a huge leap in my becoming. But the truth is, we all want the same things. We want to feel better. We want to feel like we belong. We want to feel like it's going to be okay, whatever it is. We want to feel like it's okay to be ourselves. We want to feel loved. All those things. All those things. All of them. And this is where step one, dream, comes in. So I have a question for you. What do you really want? I mean, we we often think we know the answer to this, but it may not be as obvious as we think. We share the same stories about ourselves over and over. I share the same story over and over because for me, some of these have been central challenges. Sometimes hearing someone else's story helps us say, oh, I just realized this was one of my central challenges. So the story I share a lot, though, is my story about moving house. I love pretty houses. I love attractive architecture, beautiful and welcoming interior design. I love going to open houses. I love magazines about houses. I have Pinterest and Instagram stuff about houses. To me, houses it combines an art form with my nesting instinct. And I've had the great good fortune to get to indulge that love. And I've moved a number of times. I've lived in some very nice houses in some pretty cool, interesting settings. And I've made every house beautiful in its own way. I mean, like the log cabin in Alaska my kids and I lived in. I filled it with my classic Southern antiques and art. And I mean, really, I've always feathered my nest wherever my nest was, whatever kind of house it was. And yet some part of me thought finding the perfect house would do a lot more, far more than just, provide a welcoming, comfortable, attractive environment. And every time I move, I think, this is it. This is the forever house. This will be home. And yet, every few years, I'd get itchy, restless, feeling like something was still missing. And finally, I realized there was a deeper pattern. I thought I was looking for the perfect house, when in reality, I was looking for the feeling of home. Home. That was something I had lost in very early childhood. So I invite you to begin answering this question by imagining forward. Do a little dreaming about what you really want, not just for 2024, but for your life and what it really means to you. But because we're thinking about 2024, imagine forward to what you want to be grateful for and celebrating in December 2024, a year from now. Get specific. Again, what do you want more of? What do you want to be different? Make a list of all the things you want in 2024. These can be, tangible things like a new car, a new job, more intangible, like some healing that you'd like to take care of. I mean, it could even be losing that stubborn 10 pounds, but get concrete and specific. So even if it's something like healing, when you list it, list to the best of your current knowledge what it is you want to address. It may change. It may get swept up in something else. I recently had the experience working with my own coach, who is a developmental trauma specialist, something that I had believed all my life happened around the age of 4. And then when we really started, she asked me, she says, when is the earliest you remember? I can't remember now. It was either feeling this way or not having that feeling, but it was a feeling question. And it's like, oh my gosh, I was an infant. I mean, I was like a baby. I wasn't 4. And it changed everything. So when you that was a little tangent, but get concrete and specific, and be aware that if it's something like healing, be aware that that could change as you're working through it, but the more specific you get now of your understanding now, the better. I mean, think of it like placing an order in a restaurant. I mean, to get what you really want, you have to be specific. You can't just say, I want lunch. I mean, the white person can't help you if that's all you give them. So you have to be specific. I want tomato basil soup with a sharp cheddar grilled cheese sandwich on sourdough bread. All right. Now your white person knows exactly what you want. They could come back and say, we're out of sourdough bread today. And guess what? That happens in life too. Usually there are other options. So your job is to be specific to you right now. What do you really want? Really want. And this is not to list what other people want for you, or from you. Now, once you have your list, let it percolate. Imagine the feelings you want to feel when these wishes become reality, and don't stay on the surface. Ask yourself what lies beneath. What are those specific emotions and feelings? And dig into what that means to you. For me, that house meant home. And I had been spinning my wheels all these years looking for the perfect house, when all I needed was to create the feeling of home from the inside out. Inside out, and then any house can become home. And that lunch order, it satisfies your taste buds, what it desires, also the nutrition your body wants. And how do you feel when these needs are satisfied? Are you getting those feelings now? Well, if not, what needs to be different? If the house I'm living in doesn't feel like home, what needs to be different? And whatever that question is for you. In doing this process, I've discovered that what I thought I wanted was a stand-in for what I really wanted, and that I had spent my whole life chasing a pipe dream, looking for the perfect house, when what I really wanted was the feeling of home. And because I hadn't really understood the feeling I wanted to have from having this house, all the beautiful houses I've lived in never quite fill that hole inside of me. All I really wanted was the feeling that the house I lived in was my home and that I truly belonged there, warts and all. Where are those holes inside you? And when you think in terms of what you really want, ask yourself why you want it. What hole would it fill? What feeling would you get? Zeroing in on what you really want and why you want it will also point you towards what needs healing to clear the way for that desire to become your reality. So right now, pause the video again. Let yourself just really feel this one. Do not settle for the same old list. Don't just ask yourself what you want. Ask yourself what this really means to you. All right, pause the video right now. When you're ready, come back and we'll do the next step. All right, ready for the next step? Dare. Dare. I'm going to dare you. So far, we've reflected back over 2022 to mine it for our personal goal. And, kudos to you. I know you got brave and curious. Good for you. And now we began dreaming forward to what we'd like to create in 2024 and beyond, and what we'd like to be grateful for come December, next December. We've looked at why we want the things we want and what they actually represent to us, and also what feelings we're longing to create within us and why we want to create them. So step 2 just kind of flips all that upside down and reveals the often missing question. This is one few of us consider, at least not in a truly helpful or even healthy way. It is, in my opinion, it's the best way to get a fresh perspective and really begin creating this bridge between us and our desire, for turning our desires into our reality. So to do this, pick one thing you identified in step 1 that you really want, just one desire that you've already put through this filter of why you want it, and what's the feeling you want to get from it. All right, you ready? You got it picked? You ready? You ready for the big reveal? All right. Imagine. I want you to imagine this desire and you standing on opposite ends of a room. Now, I want you to walk across this imaginary room and step into the shoes of this desire, whether it's a relationship, a goal, or whatever, and then look back across the room at you. Really look at yourself. See what that goal or desire or relationship or what it, see what it sees. Is this desire, this goal, this relationship, is it seeing what it wants for itself? Is it? Well, the answer is probably not, or it would already exist in your life, and you wouldn't be here trying to figure out how to bring it into your life. Conventional wisdom tells us to focus on what we want. We want to imagine in great detail, to create vision boards. And there's nothing wrong with any of that, except it ignores the truth that bringing our desires to fruition is a partnership, a collaborative, co-creative, symbiotic relationship between us and our dreams, our desires. And we can't just order them into fruition any more than we can, order another person to like us or love us or change to suit us. We have to create the foundation, the passageway, and the connection. Now remember, everything you want and don't currently have already exists for you, but it's just outside your comfort zone. And our comfort zone tends to ignore this question. So you're standing here, your dream or desire is standing here. Maybe you're waving to each other across the room, but both of you, just considering what our desires want from us, that feels uncomfortable. It feels scary. And we want to believe all our desires and dreams want us as much as we want them. Well, that could be true, except that we know it isn't. Not exactly. And maybe the classic example is, you meet someone and you have this instant chemistry, like, oh my gosh, and it's just like, ah. And then in a few weeks or months or years down the road, it's like, what did I ever see in them? And of course, they're kind of wondering the same thing about us. Become willing to look at yourself with fresh eyes from a different perspective. Be willing to see what your desire or dream actually sees in you, not what you wish it saw. So it's time to pause the video again. Get raw and real with yourself. What does your desire want and need from you? I'll see you after the pause. Okay. How'd that go? How'd that go? I'll tell you, the first time I did that, ooh, that was tough. That was tough. At that point in my life, my desires and dreams didn't see me like I wanted to see myself, like I wanted them to see me. Maybe I wasn't seeing myself there. I was wishing and hoping. That first time was rough. It's okay. It's a roadmap. So the next step, decide. Now, I'm going to warn you, it sounds fast and easy. It also takes a lot of courage because this is where you begin deciding, making decisions for yourself. So this is an assignment. So let's see, do I have a, I don't have a notebook right here. Anyway, here's your assignment. Get a sheet of paper, any kind of paper or a poster board or whiteboard, whatever, something you can write on, and draw a line down the center because you're going to make a side-by-side list, okay? On the left side, write your list of what you want, your dreams, plural. Write them down the left side. And then on the right side, write down what those dreams, desires, relationships, whatever, write down what they want from you. So now you got two lists going. Go through. This is where you have to have some courage. Don't sugarcoat. Don't gaslight yourself. But go through and mark where you're a match, not a match. And this is really get raw, get real, get specific. Do not go easy on yourself. Don't try to fool yourself into being a match because you want it so badly. Do you want it enough to do your own work? And that's entirely up to you. There is not a right or wrong answer. Remember, you can grow yourself to meet these desires, or you can change your desires to meet you where you are. Not a right or wrong answer. So that was quick, but it's going to take you a few and some courage. So go ahead, pause the video now and get very, 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 very honest with yourself. Okay? And then come back whenever you're ready. How'd that go? That is that was another tough one for me. Looking at myself from the perspective of my own dreams and desires, that was raw. But then it really, you know, stuff got real when I did this list of where I was a match and where I wasn't a match. Okay. And here is where the rubber hits the road. This next step, do, because we have a big decision to make. What are we willing to do? All right, remember, first we laid our foundation. We took an appreciation seeking look back at 2023. And we talked about the value of finding our personal bright spots, our gold. It's easy to find those nuggets in good years, but it may be even more important to find them in challenging or turbulent years. Remember, this process came to me after one of the worst years of my life, trying to process that horrible year. So it's way too easy to get distracted by times that don't seem so good, or get bogged down in unforgiveness or blame. And actually, one year we did this Dare Dream Decide To as a workshop. There was a whole section on forgiveness. It's a biggie and misunderstood often. So, but getting bogged down like that, it's way too easy to catastrophize it all. Even the good moments, if we're not paying attention to them, we can catastrophize good moments by saying, well, that was a fluke. I didn't really deserve that. That was an accident. Universe wasn't paying attention. In step one, we began defining our dream. What do we really want? What does it represent to us? And remember, deep down, we all want the same thing, belongingness. Belongingness. So how do the things we think we want feed into our sense of belongingness? And you can go back at any point and adjust your answers from any of the steps. This is fluid and it's yours. Yours. So what does this thing we think we want, what does it represent to us? Because no matter how much we think we want to move or find another job or whatever, it's the feeling we think we'll have once we get it. That's what we really want. It's the change we think it will create for us. And bottom line, we think we'll feel better. That's it. We think we'll feel better. And once we understand this, we can decide whether this is really what we want or there's something that would serve that feeling better. Better. That house or that job or whatever, it might not be the best way to gain the desired feelings. Be open. Being open to receive begins right here. Now, step two, I think I mentioned this, it took a lot of courage for me personally, and maybe for you too. I mean, daring to look at myself from the perspective of this desire or goal or relationship, that has been devastating at times. The temptation, at least for me, has been to say, well, of course this desire wants me. Only I kind of knew that wasn't always true. And that even if it did, remember I said everything you want already exists for you outside your comfort zone. Okay. So maybe it's just sitting there waiting for you to cross the chasm. In fact, if we had already done that, if I were already a perfect match for what this desire wants for itself, this desire and I would already, we'd already be sharing life together, and I wouldn't be still here, hoping for this or that desire to become real, and neither would you. So today, ask a just deceptively simple but life-changing question. What are you really willing to do? Do. Because you can sit here twiddling your thumbs and, staying in your imagination and wishing and hoping, but what are you willing to do? Now, one of my desires for 2024 is making more time and space for artistic expression. Now, true confession, this has been on my list before and it's gotten shoved down to the bottom. Now, for me, making space for artistic expression means, playing around with paint or maybe colored pencils, sometimes with fabrics, and playing the piano. I love playing the piano, really enjoy it, and I'm pretty good at it. In fact, in my many, many, many years of piano lessons, I discovered I could play almost anything if I was willing to put in the practice, if I was willing to do the work, do the practice. And even though I conquered my final recital piece, which was Rachmaninoff's Prelude in C sharp minor, which I'm gonna tell you, it felt like Olympic level finger gymnastics. I wasn't willing. I wasn't willing to put in that amount of practice over and over, day in and day out. I just wasn't. I mean, sure I could, but I didn't want to. And telling myself I had to, I should, that felt like drudgery. And it was taking the joy out of playing the piano. And this wasn't happening because I was afraid of playing in front of other people. Instead, it turned out that I don't know, it was like the courage of acknowledging that playing the piano was something I wanted for myself. For me, it was as private as meditation. I don't know, maybe playing the piano is a form of meditation for me. That makes sense. This means, though, it's meant that even though I love playing, was pretty good at it, any thoughts of becoming a career pianist were just pipe dreams. They were out of reach, not because I was incapable, not because it was outside the realm of possibility, but because I was not willing to do what it takes. And because I was not willing, to give up on what playing the piano really means to me. At any time, I could have changed that decision and become willing. So far, that hasn't happened. Instead, I've changed my desires because I literally did consider becoming a career pianist. So I ended up changing my desires to match what I was willing to do. And, I've even created personal boundaries when other people say things like, well, you should have done this, or, you could have played blah, blah, blah. Let them have their shoulds. Let them have their shoulds. I've accepted what I am willing to do. I have owned my personal desire, and more importantly, I have owned what it means for me, to me. Now, in the piano playing example, I finally stopped beating myself up over not going any further, and I owned my desire to play for fun or for meditation, for me, for me. And just like that, playing the piano went from feeling like a failure to being a tremendous sense of fulfillment. From, from stressful to enjoyable, but fulfillment. That was really a key. And I realized that was the feeling I had wanted to create all the time. Joy, fun, fulfillment. Now, my present situation, my present relationship with the piano is so relaxed. When I sit down now, chords that had become hard to figure out, like some of the ones from that Rachmaninoff piece, now they're interesting puzzles to figure out again or remember or just to practice. They're not triggers for stress or shame. Oh my God, I can't play this anymore. Oh my God, I'm out of practice. No stress, no shame. The excuses for not making a go of it, just evaporated. Poof. All it took was examining and coming to terms with what I was and wasn't willing to do. And this applies to any desire you could possibly have, I could possibly have. When we are deep in the woods of frustration or heartache or shame or even anger over not having what we really want or thinking we can't get whatever it is, it always comes down to a question of what we are or are not willing to do. Are you willing to do what is needed to clear the way for this goal or desire? Are you willing to heal and grow to match that desire? Are you willing to practice until doing what it takes begins to feel natural? Are you willing to adopt habits and beliefs that support your desire? Are you willing to do hard things if necessary? Or are you putting more of your focus and energy and effort into making excuses or beating yourself up? Well, it's too hard. I can't afford it. I don't have the time right now. If I did that, it would really anger or upset so and so, whoever that is. One of the most common excuses is telling yourself and anybody who will listen, oh, it isn't ready yet, whatever it is. You wouldn't be imagining it if it wasn't. It's kind of like it's letting you glimpse it so you can decide for yourself whether you're willing to do what it takes. It's not going to force you. Instead, it's patiently waiting and ready for you if you are willing. And remember, you can go back through here and you can adjust what you want. You can adjust any of it. This is fluid. It is flexible. It is malleable. Okay? But what you want is this through line. This is my dream. I'm daring to look at it from the opposite perspective. I am deciding where we're making a match and where we're not, and what I'm going to do about it, and then I'm doing it. Doing it. Give yourself plenty of time, space, and grace to ponder deeply about this willingness. It's not going to do you a bit of good to make some pie in the sky list of things you should do, or think somebody else wants or expects you to do. That's not helpful at all. In fact, it's the opposite of helpful. Word of the year, New Year's resolutions, goals for the year. They're not fairy dust. You don't just sprinkle them and little magic things happen. None of them will work without your willingness to do what it takes. And these 4 steps will lead you through that. So today, your assignment, your inner work, is to get naked with yourself. I mean, really, go back through the previous steps, adjust anything that needs adjusting. Look at each step now from the vantage point of what you've learned through these 4 steps. And you know what? You can revisit it anytime. But once you've done that, then and only then, when you have gone back through, adjusted what you want to adjust now, then I want you to get quiet with yourself. Ask yourself what you're really willing to do. Because if you need to do something and you also harbor doubts or shame or whatever regarding whether you will follow through, you do have to consider one of these 2 options. Change your desires to match what you're willing to do, or expand your willingness to match what you want. It's entirely up to you. All right, pause the video one more time. Ask yourself what you are really willing to do. Get naked, get raw and real. No pie in the sky promises, okay? I'll see you in a few for our last imagining together. Okay. So we have this one last imagining together before we wrap up Dare, Dream, Decide, Do for another year. So we're going to tie this all together by imagining forward to December 24, kind of like Scrooge being visited by the ghost of Christmas future. So we're going to imagine that it's December 2024 and imagine that you're reflecting back over 2024, just like we did here with 2023. Imagine what you want to be grateful for, what you want to be proud of accomplishing, the ways that you are happy to have grown and healed, the ways that you are glad your life has changed. Imagine yourself enjoying the dreams that are no longer just dreams. And also imagine the tough moments and the dark places you might have encountered as you brought these desires into your life. Imagine yourself transforming through these tough moments and dark places into healing and growth and, turning them into catapults for your own becoming. I mean, imagine what tools and resources, both inner and outer, that you used and how you invited them to come help. Imagine reflecting on this year, 2024, in absolute awe and wonder at your own becoming. And imagine celebrating all your accomplishments. I mean, is 2024 the year to set new boundaries in your relationships or maybe with yourself? Is it your year to transform your relationship with your past or with money or with receiving or giving or your health? Or I don't know, maybe it's your year to write a book or start painting or resume painting again or change jobs or start a business or retire. The possibilities are infinite, infinite. And that list of what you're willing to do, what if your do list, what if the first thing on your do list is getting real with yourself? Okay, remember my story about the piano, playing the piano. I had to get real with what I was willing to do. It did me no good. It's like, this is the year I will practice every day if I wasn't willing to do it. If I knew I wasn't really willing to do it, and I was just trying to psych myself out. As long as I knew but couldn't acknowledge that I wasn't willing, that piano thing wasn't going to happen. And I would just end up next December frustrated again and feeling like a failure again. And it is so tempting to say we're going to do it all. Yet even for the things we are willing to do, we don't have to do them all at once. I mean, you can do one thing and build on it, or you can change any of those things along the way. You can savor your possibilities and your own becoming step by step, day by day, year by year, and you can celebrate each and every milestone as it comes. So today's assignment sounds simple, but I hope you will do it slowly, thoughtfully, but also eagerly and joyfully. I really hope you will savor it because your final assignment is to write your year-end reflection on 2024. Imagine it. Write it in the forms of I am statements. I am, complete that sentence with something that you're doing, that you said you wanted to do, or living in a way that you said you wanted to live, or healing in a way that you said you wanted to heal. Um, you can write a few statements or as many as you like. I mean, I think it was the year before last that my reflection had 7 statements, and then partway through the year, I realized that 3 of them they didn't even matter to me the way they were written. So I actually ditched 2 of them and then rewrote one to make it a better match. Once you have your statements, just revisit this list of actions that you're willing to do. And I hope you've noticed that you're always toggling around, adjusting, monitoring. This is not to weasel out. This is to be real. Be real. First with you. First with you. So once you've got those statements, Revisit the list of actions you're willing to take. It doesn't matter how pretty that word picture you've painted of all the things you're going to do. It doesn't matter if it's a pretty word picture, because if you're not willing to be honest with yourself about what you're willing to do, it's garbage. I mean, I think it was last year, I realized that my do list was way off for one of my I am statements, and it was one that mattered a lot. So I didn't want to adjust the statement. That meant I had to adjust what I was willing to do to make a better match. And that meant, in this case, it meant I had some inner healing. I had some healing and adjusting to do in me. Now, I mean, I could have decided to rewrite that desire to better match where I was now and what I had already proven I was willing to do. Or I could actually do what I claimed I was willing. Either one's fine. Just be honest with yourself. We gaslight ourselves all the time. Stop it. Just stop it. Maybe that's on your list for 2024. So your final assignment is to write your year-end reflection for 2024. Ponder on that. Write I am statements. So to use a couple of mine, I am living in a house that feels like home, a sanctuary to me, and a welcoming place for family and friends. I am. Do that with yours. All right? If you want to share them, I'd love to read them, but you don't have to. You never have to share any of this, okay? You are the audience that matters most. So, happy New Year. We're celebrating. We're celebrating a tipping point. We're tipping all the wisdom and guidance, everything from 2023 into a fabulous 2024. Bye for now.